Okay, welcome to closing. This is a topic, a skill that I'm excited to be sharing with you because it's something that took me a little while to kind of get mastery with. And I'm excited because what ended up happening with me is I got to the level of confidence that says if you put me in front of 10 people, I'm going to close every one of those 10 that are closable. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to close all 10. No one closes all 10. I don't care who tells you they close 90 or 100% of their prospects. No one does. If they did, they'd be making $8 million a month in network marketing because they'd train that throughout their organization. And, that is a fallacy. Anyone who tells you that, they're just flat out lying. So here's the thing. You're not going to close everyone, but if you can get to the point where you can close everyone who is closable, that gives you a great level of confidence for yourself and for your organization. See, I believe one of the responsibilities that we have as a leader in network marketing is being able to, when you're, new people, bring their people to you, their prospects to you, that if they're closable, you'll be able to close them. And, a lot of that is understanding the psychology of the closing process. In fact, if you go back and re-listen to last week when I talked about, the three things that people are thinking when they look at a presentation, if you understand other people's psychology, that's going to help you a lot. A lot of closing is just an inner game. It's how you show up. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit here. But let's go through fundamental number one as it relates to closing. And this is something that is always important to me. And that is to have fun. Have fun with the closing process. Everything that you're doing, in my opinion, should be fun. If I'm ever talking in front of a group, if I'm doing a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-1, whatever it is, I'm going to have fun with it. I believe life should be fun. I believe we get to decide what is fun, and I can be happy regardless of the situation. And so I'm just always going to have fun. And, you're going to close a lot more if you're having fun. Other people are going to be attracted to you if you're having fun. If you're the kind of person who is always serious, nose to the grindstone, that's not something that people are super attracted to. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying not to work hard. I'm saying to work hard. Work very hard. You should work hard, but have fun while you're doing it. Be a master in the art of living. See, and a master in the art of living makes no distinction between his work and his play. To others and to himself, he's always doing both. And so have fun with the process. You'll find that that's going to attract a lot more people to you. The next fundamental that I want to cover is no emotional attachment to the outcome. See, most people get involved in networking, and they go and they make their initial tiny little list, and they have a huge level of scarcity in their mentality. And so they've got 5 people on their list, and it's like, man, if these 5 people get started, I'm going to be rich. And so, they go show those 5 people, and they're needy with those 5 people. They're really emotionally attached to those 5 people. And here's the secret is if you're emotionally attached, they sense it. See, your prospect can sense your neediness like a dog smells fear. You've got to have the mindset that it doesn't matter who says no to your opportunity. Doesn't matter who says yes. There's no one person that's going to make or break your success. There's no 5 people that are going to make or break your success. There's one person that matters in the equation, and that is you. See, if it's to be, it's up to me. That's got to be your philosophy that, you are going to make this work regardless of who says yes and who says no. The key is you're going to keep showing people until you find someone who says yes. And I'm going to give you one of the biggest secrets in network marketing. I want you to write this down. I want you to apply it. Don't ever forget this. Train it within your organization. And it is this: when you stop being afraid of people saying no, they start saying yes. When you stop being afraid of people saying no, they start saying yes. Okay? So that's the deal. Is what happened with me is for a long time I was needy with people. It was like I desperately wanted them to enroll. I had no posture. I had no bearing. I had no swagger. I wasn't showing up as a powerful person, and I had a really lousy closing ratio. And all of a sudden, when I figured out the inner game, if you go back to week 1, if you haven't done the exercises in week 1, don't even worry about being a great closer. You're probably never going to get there. Don't worry about being a huge leader in network marketing. You're probably never going to get there if you don't figure out the inner game. A lot of being a great closer is you showing up as the right person. When you become the right person, when you stop being fearful and that fear goes away, all of a sudden people start being attracted to you. And it's what happened to me. It was like overflowing. All of a sudden, when I started showing up powerfully and people started saying yes, I started attracting leaders. It was like I'm saying the same thing that I used to say before, but now that I've gotten rid of the fear, I've done it enough times to where the fear went away, then all of a sudden people started joining. I became a good closer. Now, part of the process, if you want to be really good at closing, you need to have a belief system that you like the process. And so if you go back again to week number 1, and we talked about the psychology, or, it's really behavioral science. If you love to close, you're going to be motivated to do it. You're going to do it a lot. That's going to end up creating the results that you want. Well, how do you get to the point where you love to do it? How do you create that belief system? Well, it's programming yourself. You got to program yourself that you love to close. See, here's what I used to do. Is when it came time, the end of the presentation, or the video was about to be over, I got nervous because I was worried about what they were going to think. I was worried about them rejecting me. And so I dreaded the process, and I wasn't a good closer because I didn't love it. And so what I started doing was just telling myself, I love to close. I can't wait. I'm excited. And I'll give you a quick tip. This is something, anytime I feel nervous about something, if I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling fearful, I just start programming myself and telling myself, I'm excited. 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 I say it over and over and over and over again. And that programming leads to a more powerful belief system. It gets me over that fear. It allows me to have courage. Courage, again, is not the absence of fear. It's having the fear, but doing it anyway. And if you'll just continue to do what you fear, eventually the fear goes away. So convince yourself you love to close. Now, another fundamental is you have got to show people how to feel. So when the presentation is over, they don't know what to think. They got presented a bunch of information. It's new to them. And so they need to dance to your music. Okay, you need to be excited, and if you will be visibly excited, then that gives them the right to be excited. If you're pumped up, that gives them the right to be pumped up. If you're nervous and needy, that makes them nervous. If you're hesitant, that makes them hesitant. And so be excited. Now, I'm not saying be hypey. Don't be bouncing off the walls if you're not a bouncing off the walls kind of person, but be more excited than you normally are. Show them. See, it's one of the powerful components of leadership is the transfer of energy. Okay, there's a great book you can read called Primal Leadership by Daniel Goleman. Wrote another book called Emotional Intelligence. And what he talks about is what a powerful leader will do is they have the ability to transfer positive emotion to other people. And the only way to transfer positive emotion to other people is if you will authentically open up and share your enthusiasm. When you authentically open up, it gives other people the right to open up. It gets them to open up. And so you need to be excited, okay? They also need to know that you're committed to the process. So if they feel like at all you're just trying it out, they're not going to join. Because if you only have the courage to try it out, why should they even join? Now, another thing is a mistake a lot of people make is they go out and they, want to use their friends as guinea pigs. And if your prospect, if they feel like you're using them as a guinea pig, like if they join and get excited, then you'll join and then you'll get excited and you'll get committed to the process. Listen, they're just never going to enroll. And, it's one of those things where, sometimes people say, well, I'm going to go before joining. They say, I'm going to go show, 3 or 4 of my friends and see if they like it. And I just tell them, if you ever get that, hey, I want to go show some people first. I say, listen, don't even bother enrolling, because if you go show your friend, why would they join if you don't even have the commitment to join? If you don't even have the certainty to join, they're certainly not going to join. If you're excited and you're committed, then they might be excited and committed, but no way are they going to join if you don't even have enough faith to get started. Okay, so you can use that in the process as well. That's kind of an overcoming objections process. So another thing is the closing starts with the invite. You want to be duplicatable throughout the entire process. And yes, I know duplicatable is technically not a word. Us network marketers have made up our own word here. I know it's duplicable, but I don't like duplicable. I like duplicatable. So closing starts with the invite. If you are calling your friend and you're explaining all about your product and how it's the greatest antioxidant or weight loss breakthrough, or it's, the electricity happens this way and that way, or, here's how the travel club works, or, whatever it is, and you're being a salesperson over the phone, they're going to probably think they have to be a salesperson over the phone. So the system that you follow needs to be a duplicatable system, okay? So closing starts with the invite. Now, another fundamental is always assume 100% that whoever you're showing the business to is joining. You've got to assume the sale, 100%. You walk in with the mindset that they're in, that it would be shocking to you, that, they would be crazy not to join. Now, don't tell them they're crazy if they don't join. That's going to probably turn people off, but that needs to be your mindset. It's kind of like when I, present my business and the presentation's over and I say, awesome, ready to get plugged in? And they say no, I move my head back. Like it's a little bit of a shock to me. Not like they're an idiot, but like, oh, wow, that's weird. That's unusual. So just assume that they're in, and that needs to be your posture going in. When you have that mindset going in, they react differently. Now, I'm going to give you another distinction. This is something that can be very powerful for you. Not only should you assume that they're joining, you should assume that they are going to be a massive business builder, that they're going to be hugely successful with the business. So many people go in and, we train on it. I train on it. Professional sort, amateur sell. You go through the numbers. Yes, go through the numbers, but you need to be doing everything in your power, both from what you're saying, how you're acting, and your mindset, doing everything in your power to have them enroll and get excited and build. That's going to make you a better closer. So it's not like yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. You can do that. If you go through enough numbers, you're going to find some people, but there's going to be a lot of people who you could have enrolled, but you don't. There's the old saying, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Total lie. Whoever said that, I don't know who made that up. I used to say that because that's what I heard from, other trainers. But you can absolutely say the wrong thing to the right person. In fact, the first time I ever got on stage, I think I've already shared the story. Had 6 people in the room, 3 walked out. One of the 3 that walked out ended up enrolling under someone else that showed him the business better, and he became a top earner. So you can say the wrong thing to the right person. Okay. But assume that they're going to be a builder. Now, I'm going to give you a quick thing that you can do. Is, when you're going in, imagine if you're showing the business to Bob, just imagine in your mind before you even sit down and show the presentation to Bob, and just imagine Bob getting excited. Imagine him seeing it and being pumped up at the end. Imagine him asking you, all the right questions about how do I reach the top rank in the company. Imagine him being so excited he wants to go enroll his first person immediately. Imagine that he puts in 10 people in his first 3 or 4 days. Imagine that he's got a team of over 1,000 people in his first year. Imagine him walking the stage as the top rank in the company. Imagine him becoming $1 million earner in your organization. And see, when you visualize that going in before a presentation, you show up differently. The way that you speak to him is a little bit different. You're speaking with a little more certainty. You're speaking with more positive belief. You're speaking with more faith, and that's going to allow you to enroll more people. So I want you to try this out. If you're going in and you've got, let's say you and another person, you're doing a 2-on-1, and you and your friend John are going to show Bob, you can even tell Bob, man, or your friend John, you can say, man, John, I can imagine this guy, Bob, just getting super excited. I can imagine him blowing up. I can imagine him just immediately wanting to get into the process. It's you guys getting excited about the potential for Bob. Now, if the business is not for Bob, move on to the next one. You're on to the next one. It's no big deal. There's no emotional attachment, but have that positive mindset going in. Be ready to enroll him. Always have an application ready. If your company allows you to have a paper application, have a paper application ready. In fact, I always think it's amazing where people go to show someone the business and they don't even have a way to sign them up. They're assuming that they're not going to join. If you assume people are not going to join, guess what? They're not. So have the application ready. I'll give you a strategy that I've used a lot is not only do I have the application ready, I'm going to fill out their name. I'm going to fill out their email address, their phone number. If I know their home address, I fill that out. I'm going to fill out as much of their information on the application form as possible. And then at the end, after the presentation's over, ask them if they have any questions. It's like we put the application in front of them and start filling it out. You're assuming the sale. And I can't tell you how many people over the years have said, am I doing this? They've actually asked me, am I doing this? And you say, yeah, man, welcome to the team, and continue with the process. Okay. If you assume the sale, it just feels right to them and they're more likely to enroll. Now, we already talked about the 3 things that people are thinking when they look at a presentation. Does it work? Can I do it? Will you help me? And so, be thinking about that, not only in the presentation phase, be thinking about that in the closing phase. Can I do it? I've already mentioned is the most important thing that they have in their mind. And when they say, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, whatever it is, what it really means is, I don't believe I can do this. I'm not sure I can be successful with it. And so, just have that as part of your awareness that it's usually belief. And I'll talk about some ways that you can overcome, the different objections when they come up in the next couple modules here. Now, I believe in closing early. Close early and often. Write that down. Close early and close often. See, most people, when the presentation is over, because they don't love to close, because they're worried about what people are going to think, they're worried about the fear of rejection. When the presentation's over, rather than collecting a decision, rather than closing, they want to go in to resell the deal. They want to talk about, additional products that maybe weren't covered in the presentation or the video. They want to talk about, compensation additions. They want to talk about, all these benefits. And if you've studied any, marketing training, they talk about selling benefits, not features. And listen, you may be a great salesperson. You may be able to give all these amazing benefits. And, presentation's over, you spend the next 10, 15 minutes wowing them with all the great things about your product and all the great things about your company. And they're like, wow, they're super impressed. And they're like, awesome. And you're like, great, are you ready to get started? And they say no. Why do they say no if they're excited, if they're impressed with all that? Why do they say no? They say no because you didn't answer the question, can I do it? In fact, you did the opposite. When the presentation was over, you went into salesperson mode. And again, 95% of the people in the world do not like to sell. So they don't care if you can be super impressive. It doesn't matter. That's not what enrolls people, is not your impressiveness. What enrolls people is them believing they can do it. And so they need to think it is simple. It is simple. So presentation's over, ask them what they like best, collect a decision, close early. And when you close early, that's a simple process. But when you go into sales mode, you literally talk them out of it because they think they have to know all of the things that you just told them before they can effectively enroll anyone else. Even if they do enroll, they're less likely to go show other people because they think they have to know what all that stuff that you just told them. So close early and close often. So, a lot of times, presentation's over, you go ask for a decision and they say, well, what about this? And rather than just answering the quick question and closing them and asking them if they're ready to get started, closing often, then you explain that and you explain 10 other things and you spend the next 10, 15 minutes, selling them. And again, you've just sold yourself out of the deal in many cases because, again, they think they have to know all the things that you know there. So close early and close often. We'll talk about that in the, things that you say here in a little bit. Now, an important piece, just kind of understanding the psychology of the closing process and what is the motivator for people to buy. The number one motivation for people to do things is emotion. Okay? People buy based on emotion. They back it up with logic. Now, I'm not saying there doesn't have to be logic. People do use logic. In fact, there is about 15% of the population, the greens or the analytical people, where that's the primary motivator, is all the logical details. They need to know all that. But that is only 15% of the population. The rest, they do things based on emotion. And so if you think about, why you own the car that you own, chances are you own the car that you own more because of emotion, the way the car looks, because the way the car makes you feel, rather than just the logical side. If you think about, when you ask someone out on a date, chances are you ask them on a date not because they have, great parents, not because they had a great job. You ask them out, you want to go out with them because of the way they look, the way they make you feel. It does something to you. When you kiss the first person, you didn't kiss your first person because it was logical. You did it because it was emotional. So the lead needs to be emotion. And I'm going to give you the worst question. Part of success is knowing what not to do. Here's what not to do in the presentation. When the presentation is over, you ask them, hey, what did you think? Okay. What did you think forces them to access the logical side of their brain? The logical side of the brain is not the primary buying side of the brain. And so don't push them over to the non-buying side by asking, what did you think? Okay. You need to be emotional. You can ask them what they like best about it. They tell you what they like best about it, and then you collect a decision. Okay, so lead based on emotion. You can always back it up with logic. And I'm going to give you, to close out the fundamentals here, the number one reason why people don't get started. Number one reason why people don't get started is, and people are always thinking, well, it's the money, it's the time, it's the pyramid objection, it's the, fear of rejection, whatever it is. Those all may be true, but the reason why they don't join, number one, is because they're not asked. They're not asked to join. The most common way that a presentation ends is unfortunate is, the distributor turns to their prospect and says, so what did you think? Number one, the wrong question. And, the person says, well, I thought this and this, and, they're answering the question, accessing the logical side of their brain, and they say all these things that they think. Oh, it's interesting. People are saying it's interesting. Usually you ask the wrong question. Okay. So, they answer that, and then you as the distributor says, okay, great. Do you have any questions? And they say no. And you say, great, let's go get dinner. Let's go have a drink. And they never ask them to enroll. So you have to ask people. It's not like people are just going to, the fish, when you go fishing, fish don't jump in the boat. Now, in some cases, you are going to have people who see it and they're like, I'm in. You don't even have to close them. They're just going to be in. That's going to happen. But the majority of the people, you actually have to ask them. Sometimes, in fact, I had a guy the other day and he was telling me, he's here in my local area. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he was telling me that he came to a presentation and the person who invited him, when the presentation was over, he never asked him to enroll. And so he didn't enroll and he went home and he was actually offended because he was like, man, I was thinking he wanted to go into business with me, but he didn't. He never even asked me. So a couple days later, I finally called him and said, hey, can I do that thing that you're doing? And, obviously the answer was yes. And he's enrolled and he's, this guy's having a lot of success in the business now. He's got a lot of people on his team and, that he could have just never joined because the person never asked him. In fact, I had a lady, a good friend of mine called me not too long ago and she says, Matt, I've shown the business to 14 people and no one has said yes. And so I said, wow, that's, knowing her, she's a very personable person. Couldn't imagine, that's a lot of people. And so I said, well, what, who are you showing? And I start dissecting the process. What are you saying to them? How are you inviting? How are you presenting? What do you say before the presentation? And everything's right. And I said, what do you, when the presentation's over, what do you say? And she said, well, I ask them what they like best. And I said, yeah. And then what next? And she said, well, they tell me. I said, all right, what next? She goes, well, we just kind of talk. And I said, well, what next? And she says, well, that's about it. And I said, well, are you ever asking them to join? She says, oh. So, we got her to start asking, and then she started having success with the closing process. And so you have got to ask people. Now, the last thing before you close out this one module is realize this. You do not have to be the best closer in the world. You want to get to the point where you can close people who are closable, but no one is going to close everyone. You're not going to close everyone. In fact, I was at one of our leader retreats, and I went and asked several of the top leaders, about 10 different people, what was your objection? Time, money, spouse, think about it. And no one had an objection. Of all these leaders who had performed at the highest levels, there was only one. He didn't have the money, but that wasn't an objection. He said, give me a few days to come up with the money. He used his unemployment check to get started. He's now making close to $1 million a year in our business. And, they don't have to be convinced. So just realize what you need to do more than anything else is show the business to more people. Look at it again like a deck of cards. In every deck of cards, there's 4 aces. You're going to find the aces if you flip enough cards. You're also going to find the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. You can't get frustrated with the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. I know sometimes it seems like there's a disproportionate number of 3s and 4s and all that, but realize the aces are there if you're willing to just keep flipping cards.